Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear sisters. My name is Salma. Welcome back to the channel. If you're here for the first time, we talk about parenting here. We talk about raising Muslim kids. We talk about building healthy Muslim families and anything that comes under that umbrella. So a very wide circle of topics, but we're focusing on the reality and on the practicality of it. So today I would like to talk about the environment and how we can work on changing our environment and meaning in our households. What are the actionable steps that we can bridge? How do we get from our values to our daily life? How can we bridge the gap? How can we create that Islamic environment? How can we make it easier for us as Muslim mothers who are home with the kids? And even if you're working, if you're not, in the home 24/7, there are certain things that you can do to make it easier to, simplify that environment. So let's get into it. Today, we're going to talk about 3 tips, and all of these things, again, I invite you to kind of come along the journey, take a journal, write down some ideas. And the biggest change happens when we envision what can happen, when we kind of envision the future. Oh, this is a change. This is what bothers me. This is how I'd like it to be. And then we make small actionable step towards it and we review it. Okay. So this is very in a nutshell, how do we change things, right? First of all, we have to kind of be dissatisfied with something. Something is bothering us. Most of us know the things that are bothering us, right? We just have to kind of pinpoint it and express it. And a good way to do that is through journaling. So write it down as we do this exercise. Write down, little things that are bothering you in your environment. And then as a next step, we're going to think about, okay, how could it be better? What it is that I want, And when we kind of communicate it to ourselves, then it becomes easier to communicate it with the people around us, maybe with our spouse, with our in-laws, with the kids. So that way they also understand our expectation. And then we make small step towards it. So we try to change small things, not big things, not that we sell the house and move the neighborhood, but, smaller things in our daily life that we can do to reach those goals. And then we constantly review it, This is part of the things we do as part of Mommy Mondays. We have a weekly review session where every week we continue reviewing the progress. Are we on the right path? Are we doing the things we said we were going to do, right? And so this is kind of the short summarized process of change. And so today I want to give you 3 tips on how to simplify your environment, right? So tip number 1 is to declutter the physical space, okay? To start with your physical space that you're in and the actual decluttering to keep things simple, because the more stuff we have, the more energy it takes for us to take care of it, right? If we have a lot of toys, it becomes overwhelming for the kids to clean up. Then we're the ones doing it, right? We're tripping over things. It just becomes more difficult. And it also plays into that idea of consumerism, that we have so much stuff that we have. Do we really need it all, right? And so try to declutter your physical space, limit toys, prioritize open-ended things. How many of your kids have played with a simple box more than they've actually played with the toy that's inside, right? So try to really limit these things. And especially if your kids are young, you are the one who's in charge. If your kids are older, I don't suggest just going in there and getting rid of half of their belongings. Then in that case, start with yourself, right? Start to declutter your physical space. Even if it's one shelf, even if it's one corner, that little success is going to fuel your motivation to keep going, right? So declutter your physical space. That's something actionable, and that's something you can do. Often mothers come to me and they say, well, my husband is saying this, or, my neighbor is this, or my mother is like this, or my mother-in-law, or my father-in-law, or the auntie is getting involved. We kind of put other people, and that's, an excuse why we cannot change. But focusing on your physical environment as a first step is something that's very much within your control, right? You are in your home, you have your space, and you can start working there, and that can give you energy to change other things in your life as you're kind of making progress with that physical space, right? And particularly when it comes to raising children, that clutter is really, really overwhelming, even to the kids themselves, right? Like they don't really play with it. If they have 15 of something, it's not special anymore, right? And so try to declutter. And, if you have young kids, that might be hard to do. You just cannot clean up the whole house. But try to do 10 minutes every day. Just something small. And even if it's one small surface, that will be something actionable that day that you can do towards simplifying your environment, right? And again, we have to also keep the Islamic perspective in mind, that we are just travelers in this dunya, that we should not be hogging things, that we should not be, we can be spending that money on something that's more important rather than just hogging belongings. And again, I'm not against owning things, but just, reminding us of that moderation, right? And so before you start telling other people, oh, please don't bring gifts or keep it simple or whatever, start to do your part within the home. And that's something very physical, very actionable you can do. So you can put that on your to-do list, or when you're cleaning up your kitchen, you can, declutter some of the things. So start with your physical environment towards your simplification in your home, inshallah, right? The other thing that you can do is to simplify your routines and your schedule, right? Often there's just too much stuff going on, right? And so that's why we're scattered. That's why we don't feel peaceful. We're just kind of all over the place. And young children also feel very, very rushed. And, those transitions from going, outside the home, going to an activity, getting into the car, leaving, particularly those of you who live maybe in big cities where there's a lot of traffic as it is, where the outside is already overstimulating. When you have maybe children in school and they have after school activities, it just feels like a lot. So be intentional about simplifying your routine and your schedule. What are the things you can drop? Do you have enough of just downtime where you have days where you're doing nothing, right? We had a very busy day yesterday, for example. So today is my recovery day. I try to alternate between calm and active days. This is a concept from Simplicity Parenting. And so basically, if there is a lot of stuff going on, and we like busy as much as anybody else, we like to be out and about and we like to do activities, but we also build in that recovery time. So simplify your routines. And particularly for children, it's important to not just be on the go, but rather have some downtime where they can just play, where they can just, be at home, and sometimes even bored, right? Like they don't have to have every minute of their life micromanaged, right? And so also that simplification, it's going to give us that time we need for prayer, for Quran, for dhikr, for all the Islamic things that we want to build in our life. If we're constantly on the go, and again, if your life is such that you have to be on the go, let's say you're going to work or taking kids to school and all these kind of things, then you can build these things into your daily commute. You can, recite Quran together on the way there, listen to Islamic nasheed in the car on the way back. You can listen to a podcast, that's Islamic if your kids are older, things like that, right? But simplify your routine, your schedules, and, it becomes easier for the kids to know what to expect. So a lot of discipline problems can be eliminated because children then know what to expect, because they will learn, there is safety and security. We know what's going on in our daily lives. I just moved a couple of months ago and we still haven't gotten back into our routine. And I can sense that we're all a bit all over the place, right? Like we're a bit scattered brain. And so I'm hoping to get back into that routine. And I think this is a good advice for everybody. Simplify your routine, drop things, reduce things off your schedule. So when we talk about, changing and doing things better, often it doesn't mean adding more to your schedule, but rather cleaning up your schedule and doing less of the fluff and the things that don't matter, and then giving it time to the things that you really want to be doing, inshallah, right? The third one, it's to foster a peaceful emotional environment, right? To create a sense of calm in your home. And now that's a difficult one, right? Because often there is yelling, often there is screaming, and I think in a household of young ones there's already so much noise. So that can be particularly overstimulating, right? With the kids screaming, fighting, toys being dropped, right? And so we're working towards a simplification. We want to kind of cultivate that atmosphere of calm, that atmosphere of peace. Now, I'm not saying don't laugh and don't be energetic and don't have fun. No, far from that. But you can kind of reduce the tension in your home if you foster this atmosphere of peace and calm. If you don't overreact, and that's an ongoing project. I'm talking here to myself as much as I'm talking to you guys. It's not like, I've mastered it all. There's times where I lose my temper. There's times, where I overreact. And that, again, when I analyze it, happens in moments of overwhelm, happens in moments where there's too much going on in my schedule and too much going on in my environment, right? So the first 2 points. So you see how it's closely related. So if you simplify your environment and if you simplify your routine and your schedule, that's almost going to give you that peaceful and calm atmosphere where you're going to be. You're not going to be stressed out over the toys that you're tripping over. You're not going to be worried about the dishes because there's so many piling up in the sink. You're not going to be worried about activities that you have to get to and it feels like there is no time. When you kind of work on these first 2 points, getting to that emotional and peaceful calm in your home will be much, much easier, right? And that's the kind of thing we want to cultivate. And what else is important in cultivating this is limiting screens, limiting overstimulation, just engaging with the people in your household. So having things like family dinner time, or having routines where you sit down and talk, or where you play games, where you interact with each other, that's going to give you that positive emotional calm. And all these 3 points will help you continue to foster that simplified environment that will actually help you reach your goals, that will help you as a mother not just survive, but rather thrive, right? That's our goal here. Our goal is to enjoy motherhood. And so if we're constantly stressed out over the physical space, which is the case with so many mothers, right? If we're constantly stressed out over our schedules and the feeling like we have no time, then we will be stressed out in the emotional department as well, right? And so I hope you see the connection between these 3 points. And I want to encourage you to now kind of for yourself, jot down a couple of things. What is a particular hotspot that's bothering you in your physical environment? Is it the kitchen? Is it the living room? Is it the kids' bedrooms? Do you have a quiet corner in your bedroom that you kind of want to create a little bit of a sanctuary in there, right, for yourself, a little bit of peace and calm? So jot down a couple of points that you can work on over the next week or two, in very small steps. So don't be like, okay, I want to move out and change the furniture and all these kind of things. Those measures are way too drastic, right? But try to think of something small that you can do that's going to give you some joy, and then you can kind of keep up that routine, right? And then same thing as far as the routines, and what are the things that you can drop? How can you make morning time more enjoyable? How can you make the bedtime routine more simplified? Do you have that transition in the afternoon where everybody's kind of going crazy? How can you make that easier? Maybe it's the transition of your husband coming home and the kids are too jittery and there's just too much chaos going on. Write down your pain points of your day. What are the pain points in your day? And you can put that in the comment section below so you can kind of see what other mothers are struggling with, right? And so we can kind of reach that solution together. But this is a common occurrence, right? And so we want to make these small changes. We want to consider motherhood as our job, as our, not even a job or a career, but rather a calling, right? This is a very noble kind of thing, but a lot of us are overwhelmed because we are struggling with these things that just kind of, get together, and then all of a sudden we're losing our minds. The house is a mess, kids are screaming, and there's chaos, right? And we can't get those lofty values that we have of teaching our kids the deen, of being calm, of being patient, right? And so the goal here is to bridge the values and the ideas and the practicality, so what are the practical things you can do in the next week? I'm a big fan of taking small steps, taking, let's say, 3 things that you're going to do, writing it down and giving it some time, saying on a Monday, I'm going to do this. On Tuesday, I'm going to try to get these kind of things. And then you will review. And that's the part of the weekly review. Then basically once a week, you would kind of go back and say, okay, did I do the things I said I would do? And if I didn't, can I have some compassion and curiosity? Can I just wonder what happened there? How come I didn't do it? And sometimes certain things will be on your list forever. And then you kind of realize, hey, the kids have been sick, okay, I can't get to it, or there's been just exceptionally busy time, or I've been pregnant and nauseous and I can't do it, right? And so the key here is not to make yourself feel bad, like this is not the point here. If you feel like you're starting to feel inadequate, if you feel like, oh my God, Sister Salma on YouTube is telling me all these things and I'm not measuring up and I can't do it, get curious. Why are you not getting to it? And be compassionate towards yourself. Get into this practice of curious compassion towards yourself. Like, what would you say to a friend if they came with that struggle? I just recently spoke to somebody and she was telling me how she's struggling with her 3 little children, and her mom had some expectations. She was calling her and asking her, how come you don't care about me? And she was trying to finish her Quran classes and she was trying to do so many things. And then, as I curiously and compassionately was inquiring, well, what's happening in your life? How come you're not getting around to these things? Well, turns out all 3 of her kids were sick at the same time, and she was also sick, but she couldn't take time off because she was taking care of them. So in that sense, she became more calm because she kind of could see the big picture. Okay, it's not possible for me to do all these kind of things. So I really want to encourage you towards the practice of curiosity and compassion towards yourself as you make changes. So the curiosity and compassion should not leave you just like, okay, I'm so compassionate towards myself, I'm not going to make a change at all. No, that's not the point here. We don't want to stay victims where we're going to just kind of blame outside circumstances, but where we're going to just kind of see, hey, what's happening? And how can I make this better, inshallah, right? And so we're talking here about simplifying our environment, starting with the physical space, starting with our routines and our schedules, and then creating also that emotional calm in our households, inshallah. I hope this helps, inshallah. If you like these kind of topics that we're talking about here. If you like the interaction, if you would love the interaction with me and other like-minded sisters, please consider joining Mommy Mondays. Mommy Mondays is a virtual online community that will be hosted on the Circle app. It will be a private community for Muslim sisters only. We will have weekly Mommy Monday sessions, basically a dedicated time each Monday for us to get together and speak freely on a Zoom call, discuss the issues, that we're facing as mothers. We will have a weekly review session together where we would basically set some goals for ourselves and then review it week to week, and just make some progress. And we will have some recorded master classes in there on the app, inshallah. So if this sounds like something you would love to be part of, please join the link, the wait list. Inshallah, the card will open on January 13th, and I'm really excited to see you there on January 20th when we kick off our first Zoom session that will be for the private community, inshallah. If you cannot join, no worries. I will be showing up here on YouTube, inshallah, and sharing with you little bits of wisdom and experience that I've gained over the last 25 years of being a Muslim wife and a mom. All right, thank you so much, and I'll see you soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.